All right. So we're going to start a talk on Mahavir's view on diet and how it can help us in our day-to-day life. The life, as we know, is a series of actions. The act we must, we are born. But the actions, what we do, there is a lot hidden behind each and every action that you take. Some actions we do with awareness, some actions we do without awareness. There are a lot of things involved. The life as we know is very superficial, but there is a lot of depth to the life that we don't know. The mind that we have, the mind that we know, and the mind we can utilize is only 10%. The subconscious level is almost 90%. And that we have no idea about. It's like your body. You can move your arms, you can move your legs, but you have no control on your heart, kidneys. A lot of things are acting spontaneously. Similarly, what is going on in the subconscious mind is ultimately going to affect your conscious mind. The focus of today's discussion is to take you further deep into behind your actions. Because without that, the life cannot reach to its goal, which we were supposed to unite with Paramatma for this precious life that we have. Every action that we really go through in analytical fashion, you will realize that they are guided by two things, likes and dislikes. We go towards the things that we like, we run away from the things that we don't like. But there are a lot of actions we do which has no likes and no dislikes. For example, you came here from home. You drove through a series of roads. There were certain neighborhoods you just enjoyed looking. The houses were beautiful, flowers were pretty, and you looked at it and you said you had a good feeling about it. There were certain neighborhoods you might have just drove through very fast, and he says you had a negative feeling about it. But at the same time, there were thousands of homes and hundreds of intersections you might have passed through. If I ask you anything, you wouldn't know anything about it. And yet, your eyes were open, you were driving, you were looking at it, but nothing was being recorded. So there are likes, there are dislikes, and there is indifference. So this indifference is the key to rise towards the spiritual success. The reason being, the mind is not being utilized. We're doing it. The only thing is, we are not aware of it. The job of spirituality is to raise your awareness to the highest possible fashion so it starts shedding light on your subconscious mind. So in the subconscious mind lies the key to the perfected actions. The actions become better. The actions are geared towards where it should be geared, towards Paramatma. But each and every action that, as we know, is guided by the likes and dislikes. And Patanjali called this vrittis and vasanas. Because vrittis and vasanas are beautiful words. The reason is, vritti, if you convert into traditional English sense, say tendency. You tend to gravitate in certain directions. But it does not really does the justice to the word vritti. Because vritti takes the flavor of your past life. Same thing for vasanas. You can convert it into like a desire. So you have desire for something. But when you say desire, it just is like a one life, an individual person's desire, and that's it. Because English language was not devised by enlightened people, but Sanskrit was. The vasanas automatically takes you like almost into your previous lives, and you having a karmic imprints on your life, which carries from way back. So those things are hidden in your subconscious mind. So the job of spirituality and subconscious mind, you can't do anything about it. Like if you have an example, you have a habit of lying, or your habit of getting angry, and you want to do something about it, the only thing you have available is your conscious mind. And the conscious mind will try, but conscious mind itself is powered by the soul and the consciousness. But when you try to correct your own actions, It's almost like a surgeon trying to operate on his own appendix. He just can't, because it's like one hand fighting the other. And when you have a tendency to overeat, and you says, okay, I'm gonna do the fasting, this and that, you are the doer. But the roots of your overeating lies so farther deep that you have no control on it. This morning I was running with a friend. He says, I understand all these things. I don't have desires. Like last night I walked into a party. I didn't even think about Ras Malai. But when it came, it just happened. And you cannot say I was premeditated. I say, there you go. In the conscious section, you did not have a desire for Ras Malai. But in the subconscious level, the desire was still there. The vrittis and vasanas is all that's about. When the right environment comes in, you just act it out. The same thing with anger. He says, I'm going to take a vow not to be angry. I have done a lot of bad things, this and that and all that. But when the time comes, you don't even think, and just anger flows. So what do? That's why Mahavir says, go further deep. Whatever actions you have has more meaning to it than what you think. So let's go into the sutras. There are two sutras which are derived from Sadhana Sutra. These were written in Magadhi language but has some Sanskrit words also. It says, Rasa Pagaman na nisarviya payam rasa dittika naranam. That means one should not take delicious dishes like milk, yogurt, sugar, honey and spicy food in excess. The reason is, the delicious dishes normally stimulates lust in a person. Lust, desire. The food in the West has been looked at only a source of nourishment. Whatever does to you, and that's all they had known. But each food leaves a footprint on your mind, and it condenses your desire for food again. I always give an example to my patients. I said, you and I, we both are hungry. You are hungry, I am hungry. I have two choices, carrots and carrot cakes. You decide to go for, obviously, carrot cake. That's why you're my patient. So I decided to go for carrots. Now, we both are satisfied. We leave the room. My mind is simple. It's not flying high in the air, but you have a problem. You still are thinking about that carrot cake. 2 days, 3 days later, you pass by a bakery and you stop by and say, yeah, that carrot cake was really good. I asked Dr. Shah where it gets from, and I'm going to stop by and pick it up. So your action 2 days later are generated from your fascination and the imprint left by carrot cake that you had in my office. Yes. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. I'm not addicted to carrots. Addiction is a human phenomenon. Non-addiction is divine. Because God never wanted you to overeat. At the same time, God wanted you to eat because to sustain the body so you can lift yourself higher to Him. But we have gone beyond that. We think we are better than God. So God made carrots, we made carrot cakes. God made apples, we made apple pies, and series of things went on and on and on, and then now we have explosion of addictive substances. So spirituality always said that what you eat, what you do, what you speak, everything has an imprint which keeps on condensing in your subconscious mind. And when the subconscious mind is operating, the conscious mind has no value. It just flows out. And that's where the focus should be further going deep in. So Mahavir says one should not take delicious dishes like milk, yogurt, sugar, honey and spicy foods in excess quantity. For the delicious dishes normally stimulate lust in a person. So this person who is stimulated with lust, his behavior will be totally different than somebody who is not infected or diseased with lust, right? So your actions 2 days later, if it's looking at a face value, fine, the guy likes carrot cake, he's going for carrot cake, what's wrong with that? He can afford and whatever. not realizing along with that his chakra of lust is still going on, and you never reach samadhi. So the next line says, Dittam chakama samabhivamti dumam jaha saufalam vapaki. It's a beautiful sentence. It says, persons whose lusts are stimulated are mentally disturbed. Their mind will be like this big because mind is continuously active. Mind is continuously thinking. Even though you may say, I did not have thoughts about Rasmalai, subconscious mind was continuously churning, yearning for the Rasmalai. So it was always there, whether you know it or not. Now that you will figure out when you try to meditate. To going into samadhi will be almost impossible if you had these kind of foods the day before or even week before. Depends upon how much was your longing for food, right? So they say the persons whose lusts are stimulated are going to be mentally disturbed. How? And the comparison is beautiful. Like the trees which are laden with sweet fruits and frequently infested with the birds. The birds don't care about a tree until the fruits starts ripening and birds from all over start flocking onto the tree. The same way the vasanas and vrittis are going to be coming towards us when we act out and we consume the foods which are stimulating, which are intoxicating, which are addictive. So our mind will never be at rest. So the tree will be loaded with fruits and the birds coming in, like our vasanas will be totally loaded, and the tree that we're holding on to will be never at rest. Our behavior outside has deep roots, just like a tree is flowing around, is baking itself in the sun, going in the wind, but the roots are what we know. They're where the connection is. If the tree is rotting, you know the problem is with the roots, except we are unhappy, we are diseased at the physical level, at the mind level, at intellectual level, intellect level, but that rotting that is happening, we just don't know the cause. So Mahavir is showing us the ways to go to the roots, and that's where the solution lies. Solution of overweight is not Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers. The solution is within us. Because it's just another application. It's staying at the mind level. Whatever you're doing at consciousness level is not going to work because it's a subconscious level. That's where the problem is. For that, your awareness has to start rising. Your spiritual awareness is what's going to start shedding light on your subconscious level. Because subconscious level, you are out of the picture. You are not a doer anymore. He's the doer. You have to connect with him first. And that's why meditation is extremely important. So Mahavir and Buddhas were great thinkers. The major discovery they found out, the real cause of suffering, was deep down within. And they explored deep down within. Each one went into the jungle, Mahavir for 12 years, Buddha for 6 years, and they reached to the solution of the problems. And that's why we are here talking about it. So definition of vasana in Sanskrit, like we said, is a behavioral tendency or karmic imprint which influences the present behavior of a person. So whatever actions we are performing, we carrying our karmic load of previous lives, previous generations, who knows what. And for that we need to go within. Subconscious mind is almost like Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is the space, this theoretical, but actually reality is a spiritual space where all those vasanas and vrittis and all the causal body is holding on to these keys ultimately to the root. Just like the tree, the leaves are connected to the roots via the stem channels. There are channels carrying the food and the water and everything. The same way roots are ultimately controlling the tree. The same way our soul is ultimately feeding the energy to all the actions that we're doing. Energy is neutral. Energy does not take sides. But our mind Depends upon the vrittis and vasanas, likes and dislikes. It's the same energy whether you like something or dislike something. Energy is neutral. It doesn't really care. It just provides the energy to carry out whatever you think. That's the ultimate freedom God could have given us. You do whatever, but you learn from your mistake. But we don't. We keep on going. So, inner awareness and inner consciousness is extremely important. That's the only way, ultimately, our behavior can transform. And likes and dislikes can disappear. Likes and dislikes are there because deep down in our subconscious mind, we have a kind of makeup that makes us go towards the sansar. We think that ultimately sansar is what's going to give me something that's going to make me happy. And in that process, we spend the whole life, and not just one life, many lives we have spent. And this has built up over so many generations. So we have a feeling, and Patanjali called this abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is our thinking, our faith in the life, that life has to give us something. We never learn the objects of pleasure keep on changing. If it is not rasmalai, it's gulab jambu, and all those things keep on going. The objects keep on changing, but what does not change is our faith that someday I'm going to reach to the point that I'll have total happiness. And that makes us keep going and going. And in that process, we pick, we choose, we go after one thing, we run away from all these things. So our actions, or abhinivesh, is fed by the temporary pleasures that we get by our vrittis and vasanas. So that's where we have to go further deep. So Mahavir says, don't blame the foods. Don't blame the alcohol. Don't blame any addictive substances. The addiction is yours. It's not built into the foods. They may be addictive, but ultimately it is your addiction and your mind and your vrittis and vasanas that make you go after. So whenever we try to blame something, say outside world or outside situations or whatever, think again, it's all within us. And that's where we need to focus. So when we practice dhyan, and when we practice dhyan, meditation, it's all about awareness. There is really nothing else. The more you are aware, the less you are unconscious. The more you are conscious, the more you are unconscious. Every time we pick up the foods, which makes us believe in the pleasure coming out of the food, is making us unconscious. So the consciousness gets defeated by our behavior, our likes and dislikes and all these things. That makes us unconscious. So on one hand, we're trying to practice awareness, and other hand, we keep on consuming the substances which are known to rob you of your consciousness. And we think we are okay. We go in the morning, go to yoga class, be 20 minutes sit in meditation, and then evening go and drink alcohol, eat everything you want, and that's fine. I'm better than my neighbor who doesn't do anything. So, but it's counterproductive. We don't know that, but at subconscious mind, we're writing a lot of vrittis and vasanas which are condensing all the time, and we are really not going anywhere. So Mahavir says, thinking of something going in one direction and then gravitating towards another direction is just counterproductive. It does not really take you anywhere. You're living a horizontal lifestyle. There is no vertical flight. So don't blame the food. It's your tendency. The consciousness is our nature. We are born with it. We have a total awareness right now, here, at this moment. If we want to become conscious, we can. We have to come out of the illusion created by these foods, that it's not the foods, it's us. Our belief that this food will give us the pleasure, that belief is a mistake. And that's the reason why we keep running after it. Or run away. It's the same energy that you use to love the carrot cakes, you're using the same energy to hate carrots. Hatred, love, is just external behaviors, energy is the same. So it's our energy. So consciousness is our nature. But when we do consume addictive substances, our behavior changes. One person, after he consumes alcohol, starts talking. Another, go to sleep. Third guy starts swearing. One alcohol, how can it create different effects on different people? Because so far you were living in so-called civilized society, your behavior was influenced by the external situation, so a lot of things could not come out. But the alcohol, all it does, it just brings out what you are. It does not do anything to you. Alcohol does not do anything to you. The only thing it does is brings out your inner tendencies and in your inner vrittis and inner vasanas. So all these substances that we consume that make us unaware of a lot of things, the first thing it's doing is make us unaware of your own soul. But then all your inner tendencies are coming out. So that is the power of these addictive substances. So alcohol does not create anything new in you. So Mahavir says that every action you do, you blame the outside world, is a totally wrong approach. For the first time in a human history, the Vedas were written, Mahavir came and talked, the approach was going towards within. And that the approach that is taken within is going to give you the keys of successful life and spiritual uplifting. So meditation is all about raising your awareness, and that's all you can do. Do not try to fight your bad habits. You just understand them. The God has given you the tool of awareness, understanding, consciousness. All these things are there. You just have to merge with it. You merge with consciousness and things start happening. There was one guy came to Rajneesh and he says, you say we should do dhyan. Rajneesh says, yes, it's very good. He says, but I'll do it. You're my friend. As if he's doing a favor. So he says, but I can't stop my alcohol. So Rajneesh says, okay, no problem. But do it. You have to do it seriously and religiously and sincerely, the way I have told you. He says, yes, I'll do that. The guy comes back after 3 months. He says, you cheated me. He says, why? What happened? He says, now I don't even have a desire to drink. What did you do to my desire? He says, you did whatever you did to yourself. When your awareness starts rising, the pleasure starts building up. All the so-called pleasures, they start waning off. The practice has to be religious and sincere. And all these things, when you see the divinity falling on your lap, how can you think about doing anything else? The divinity which is present within you is all-time more powerful than anything you have ever seen to give you the pleasure. 3 days ago, there was a lot of rain. I went outside. I said, should I run today or not? I said, well, I'm equipped, I'm ready, I'm willing to go, no matter what. So I went. Luckily, the rain wasn't so bad. So it was a drizzle, beautiful. We live on a hill, there was nice fog. And so one of the woods was passing by, and then there was woods. I just sat down. I said, I feel like, sat in the woods, meditated. Towards the end, beautiful fragrance started coming in. I looked around, there was nothing there. So I didn't think much about it. 2 days later, the rain continued again. This time, I just said, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna disregard the rain. So went in the same woods, but a little further up. I walked in, all of a sudden I see a big bunch of honeysuckle that was blooming, and the fragrance was amazing. And the wind was coming from the honeysuckle towards me, filling my nostrils with amazing heavenly fragrance. The rain was little drops coming in. There was a fog. It was felt like you're in like a rainforest. The beautiful sound. You're so close to God as it is. Every single object is all created. Billions of molecules are put together to create an experience for you. How can you not appreciate the God, the gratitude that flows? I sat down and meditated. and I had a heavenly time, right? Third opportunity comes 2 days later, still drizzling and all that, and the wind is there, everything is there. I go there, all of a sudden, everything is there, but the wind is in opposite direction.
No, they're smelling you.
Right? Think about it. So it made me realize that every single moment that is created unique. Who can do that? How many times can you do it? I wanted to replicate that experience that I had again today. God says it's not in your hands. Everything that I assemble is assembled by me at my own will and at my convenience, totally up to me. So that's when you give in. So he is so big, he's so infinite. Only if you have a chance or time to listen to him, he's there. So that's why I say once you experience that, the interest in the outside world, it doesn't remain, because the outside world cannot give you anything that even can come close to this kind of experiences. Whichever person you get addicted to, or the object, or the situation, changes. It changes. Everything changes. And you expect the same pleasure coming out of that same person 2 days later, but that person is in a different mood. Sorry, have a headache. Can't have it. Everything is changeable. In that changeable world, we want pleasure. So realization has to happen. The outside world is not for you to receive the pleasure. It is for you to give something if you can. When you stop receiving, the giving starts flowing automatically. It's unidirectional, this way or that way. That's it. There is nothing else. There are no side channels. Little bit giving, little bit receiving, little bit donation or tax deduction. I get this and that. There are no calculations in God's mind. Are you giving or not? Simple. So the problem is, every single action we do, we are influenced by the objects, by the people, or the situation, and we keep on carrying, if not this object, that object, tu nahi, aur koi mile, bahuratna vasundhara. We keep on going and we'll find somebody else and all that. But we are unconscious. We are unconscious because we're going to the material aspect of the consciousness. When we could have the spiritual aspect of consciousness, we are wasting our time in the material aspect of the situations. So Gurdjieff was a great philosopher, lived in Austria. He said, man lives his life in sleep, and in sleep he dies. We are born blind, and we live blind, and we die blind. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Once in a while, few sparks happen, and somebody wakes up, and all we do is we worship them. We put tilak, we play this and that, as if we got another object of pleasure, as another object of satisfying that we are on the right track, and that's it. We get lost. It's like the gun, fired a bullet, big explosion happened, but a year later, 10 years later, people are still talking about that was a great bang. But whatever happened, we don't want to duplicate within us. We don't want to be Mahavir. We would rather be a Jain, keep on doing rituals, and we are happy. We don't want to be a Ram or a Krishna. We would rather keep on doing the rituals and call ourselves Bhakta and then go on. Nothing wrong with Bhakti. If it opens you up to that level, fine. Nothing wrong with it. But it has to. Otherwise, we born blind and we die blind. But Gurdjieff says it's better to die rather than live in sleep. Because you have capacity. Animals live in sleep. They are not aware. They don't have consciousness. They live their life totally blind to the God. But we have the capacity. That's the shame. But we don't want to wake up. So Gurdjieff says that's even worse than living an animal life. Because animals don't have capacity. They don't wake up. Fine, that's understandable. But we have the capacity and we don't wake up. So conditioning of the mind is the problem. Our likes and dislikes kind of gives a color to our pure water, crystal clear water that we're holding as a soul inside, the way it's supposed to, we start developing colorings, different colors. And each one has a different color. Each one has a different set of colors, permutation, combinations. All those colors we create, and each one has a different individual vrittis and vasanas. Even two twins will not have exactly the same vrittis and vasanas. It's like fingerprint. They are so unique for each and every one. And conditioning makes us behave in a different way. Buddha said, if I give a sermon, 100 people listening, there are 100 versions of my sermon. Everyone perceives in a different way because their frame of mind, their set of mind, their vrittis and their vasanas are all perceived in a different way. And he says, I have no concern for that. My concern is giving what I have. And your concern is to clear out your vrittis and your vasanas so you can perceive and match me at my level. That's what he says. So if you want to do that, you also dive deep in the same path that I took. You take your own path, but everyone has to take their own path. Group cannot do it. Looking at each other cannot do it. But that's all we're doing. What is he doing? What are you doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing, so we are happy. Being in a crowd is nothing worse than drinking alcohol. Alcohol makes you unconscious. Crowds make you unconscious. Hitler was a great painter. He liked to sing, and paint. Imagine Hitler. And he was a vegetarian, believe it or not. No, he was vegan. And yet what he did was, when he was handling the crowd, he was a different person altogether. He was a dictator and taking people to the right path. And that's it. So imagine what we are conditioned for. All these things, we get influenced by the problems of the society, the pleasures that everybody is in. All those things condition our mind. And we lose the precious opportunity to know our absolutely divine soul that we have. So Gurdjieff again says that without self-knowledge and without understanding the workings and functions of this machine, man cannot be free. He cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave. Every time we get conditioned by the likes and dislikes that we are holding on to, we are slave to that object. That object always makes us dance. Even when we are not supposed to, we think about it. Even when we're supposed to, we think about a person, think about a situation. Like I said, the last meditation I had was created an influence on me to that I expected them, and that's the worst mistake to do in the meditation. It prevents you from meditating in the first place. Even when Rasmalai is not there, you're seeing a patient and you're thinking of Rasmalai. So it's taking my part of my energy, which I could have given 100% to my patient. So all this thing swaying and back and forth, and somehow we keep on living as if it doesn't matter to us, and we keep on living, and we never think that there is something else that is operating at the higher level. So likes and dislikes is all we remember. The houses we liked and the neighborhood we didn't like, that's all we remember. Rest of the things we were indifferent. But that indifferent thing is controlled by your subconscious mind, and that's where we need to go. So slavery is our own slavery. Who told you to get addicted to these objects? Nobody did. It was our choice. Every time you consume that object, could it be alcohol, could it be sweets, delicious foods, whatever, but you're condensifying that truth. See, there is a flux. Life is a flux, is a constant change, right? So if you're not building up your tendency towards object, you're going the opposite direction. There you're unwinding yourself from that object, one or the other. There is nothing static. There is nothing like that, I'm staying neutral. You cannot stay neutral. The energy force that is coming from within is going to make you continuously make choices. And as the choices you make, whether you gravitate towards the world or you take the choice towards going Paramatma, towards the spirituality, one or the other. Spirituality means no vrittis, no vasanas, nistarang man, thoughtless mind is the state of samadhi. Either you desire that or you desire the world, one or the other. Cannot have both. You cannot do both. You cannot say, okay, I'll meditate and then do whatever I want to do rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. So then you're fumbled. Then you're not going anywhere. So when you consume the objects, every time the vrittis are building up, and then you becoming more and more slave to that object of pleasure. Whether it could be a person, could be a situation, or whatever may be the case. So Gurdjieff says, and when you have faith in that object, that next time I have the same object and I'll have the same pleasure, it may not. Sometimes absence of object also gives you suffering. Because suffering comes, every pain in the society brings the suffering. I had a talk with another friend of mine, and he had some affairs, right? And then everything is okay now and all that. But now he says that that situation gave me the pleasure, but now I cannot have that situation, so I'm unhappy. So he's not happy that he had pleasure at that time, but so the pleasure was derived from the objects, people, and situation. And those objects or people or situation gave him the pleasure, but now even if I have nothing wrong, no fights or nothing like with the person, but I still say either way I'm suffering. Before I wanted to have it, I could not have it, I had it. So people are like this. People looking for things, and then ultimately they dance to the tunes. Even while doing your routine life, your mind is continuously, just like you invest in a stock market. You see the patient and you say, oh, what was the Google like, what did the Google do? But you are here to see the patients. Why you know? So our objects, situations, our love for it is a slavery. It literally robs your mind of its own independence. So Gurdjieff says conscious faith is freedom. The faith in the consciousness and absence of dependence on the outside objects is the ultimate freedom. Emotional faith is a slavery. You know how women can be emotionally attached, and then that person, even though in the name of love, the attachment is that along with the attachment comes the possession, that I want him to do certain, like because I love him, this and that. That's also a slavery, because that person becomes so important in your life that you cannot function without him. So emotional slavery, he says, is also a slavery. And mechanical faith is total foolishness. Doing things ritualistic, as if not even paying attention to it, where you're not even bound, you're not even attached to rituals. You just keep doing it mechanically. That's the worst. So that's ultimate foolishness. So awakening at the consciousness level is possible only for those who seek it. Only if you're looking for it, it's there. If you're not looking for it, it's not there. In the Jewish scriptures, they say God talks to someone who's ready to listen. If you're not ready to listen, he's not talking. Simple. So awakening is possible, again from Gurdjieff, only for those who seek it and want it. Seeking is one thing, to have intense desire, mumukshatva, intense desire to go on that route has to be there. Otherwise you'll be meditating for years and nothing will happen. Intense desire has to be there. Burning desire. For those who are ready to struggle with themselves. Now, so far you were struggling with the rasmalai outside. Now your struggle is going within. Mahavir says it has nothing to do with the objects outside. A dollar bill is a dollar bill is a dollar bill. Whether it generates passion in you or hatred in you, it doesn't matter. The dollar bill doesn't care. It's just there. It's a dead object. How much attachment we make it to, that decide how precious that object is. So he says awakening is possible only for those who seek it and want it, for those who are ready to struggle with themselves and work on themselves for a very long time and very persistently in order to attain it. All these things are required, but we are not ready because we are happy the way we are. So only time when we realize that we are going towards in that direction, the God does not say that there is some like obscure goal that you have to reach. He does not believe in not paying for your efforts. The efforts starts paying off right on the spot. The moment you realize that it was your energy that was being wasted on that object, immediately the transformation takes place. Now the focus is not outside anymore. Focus is within. First time you realize that it was my problem and I have to fix it. Buddha, there is a good parable on Buddha. One day he started his sermon. He brought a handkerchief with him and had so many knots in it. So he asked his disciples, he says, what do you see? So they said, there is a handkerchief with many knots. He says, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Before the handkerchief was knotted and after it was knotted, is there any qualitative difference between the two? He says, no. It's the same handkerchief before the knots or after the knots. He says, good. He says, second question is, if I tell you to unknot this, how would it be easy? What would you do? He says, these knots are very complex. We cannot do it. You know how to undo it because you are the one who knotted it. You know exactly which way you put the handkerchief in, this direction, that direction. So you have to reverse the direction. So it would be easy for you, but it will be almost impossible for us. So Buddha says that's exactly the state of our mind. We are all handkerchiefs. We are all consciousness. We are knotted. And no one can open up those knots for us. We know exactly how we went into that situation, and only we can unknot our own consciousness. So we have to make efforts. We cannot expect anyone else to give us any clue as far as where to go, how to go. It's our wrongdoing, our right doing will fix it, but it's all within us. So much for today.
So ultimately we have to go within.